Good evening from Iraq, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and all of you joining us from around the world. Welcome. My name is Rosie Tahir. I'm a freelancer working with the Sbey Research Center and also studying political and international relations at the University of Sulaimani. It is both an honor and pleasure to co-host this important international webinar alongside with Dr. Kawa, Hassan, and our distinguished speakers. Before we begin, allow me to briefly introduce the Sbey Research Center. Established in December 2023, and we are growing a policy and research hub based in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and it's led by Dr. Robert Talat. And our mission has three important pillars. The first one is rigorous research, and the second one is policy analysis and advocacy, and the third one is active public engagement. And also, we are committed to fostering informed dialogues and contributing to the evidence-based policy makings in the region. So today's event is a part of ongoing series hosted by our Turkish Study Unit, and our aim is to deepening the international understandings about the critical regional issues. And this evening, we turn our attention to a topic of enduring significance, the Kurdish question in Turkey. As you know, today's webinar is titled From a Nation State to a Democratic Society, Ideological Journal of Abdullah Öcalan. Our discussions today will be covered both historical context and the future outlook of this important topic, of course, with the help of our speakers' ideas. And allow me now to give a brief information or a biography of each speaker. I will start with the Dr. Sait Keskin. He is originally from northern Kurdistan and currently residing in the United Kingdom. Holds a bachelor's degree in political science and international relations from Oxford Brookes University, along with the master's and PhD from the University of Exeter. His doctoral dissertations examine the Kurdistan national liberations movement, a paradigm change and transformations from a national liberations to a democratic liberations. Dr. Keskin's research focus on a nation and nationalism and nation states and nation building and Kurdish politics and history and politics of Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, particularly in relations to a Kurdish national right to self-determination. His expertise also encompasses democracy, the Kurdish questions, and the conflict resolution in the Middle East. He currently lectures in political science and Kurdish politics at Rojava University in Qamişlo, and teaches the Kurdish Kurmanji dialect as a freelance academic. Welcome, Dr. Sait. Our second key speaker is a Dr. Thomas Jeffrey Miley, is an associate professor in political sociology at the University of Cambridge. He serves as a member of the executive committee of the EU-Turkey Civic Commissions, EUTCC, and this patron of a peace in Kurdistan. He is the author of The Self-Determination Struggle in Pursuit of the Democratic Confederalist Ideal, and a co-editor along with Federico Venturini of Your Freedom and Mine, Abdullah Öcalan, and the Kurdish questions in Erdogan, Turkey. Most recently, he co-edited a Rojava in Focus, a critical dialogues with the Jihad Hamei. Welcome, Dr. Thomas. Our third speaker is a Dr. Behrooz Shojai, he was supposed to join us this webinar, but unfortunately, because of an urgent health issue for his child, he will not join. And he sent his apology, and hopefully he will join in the future activities of Sbey Research. So these conversations will be moderated by Dr. Kawa Hassan. He is a non-resident fellow with the Stimson Center's MENA program, founder of Rojava Strategies, and consultancy focused on the Middle East developments and geopolitics, a member of NATO missions Iraq's strategies assessment capability. From 2021 to 2023, he was executive director of Stimson Europe, where he led track 2 diplomacy projects on Iran-Saudi dialogue, Iraqi regional role, and the Syrian conflict. Previously, he was a vice president Middle East and North Africa, director EU at East-West Institute. He was lead author of SIPRI's report of Iraqi's climate-related security risk, which was a feature at a UN Security Council debated in July 2018, and was a member of the Atlantic Council's Iraq Task Force. Kawa has held the research and senior management roles at Carnegie Middle East Center, UNDP, HIVOS, and INGOs, and frequently provides media commentary. He holds an MCs in the International Relations from the University of Amsterdam and studied English and German at Al Mustansariya University in Baghdad. Before we hand the floor over to Dr. Kawa, a quick housekeeping note. As previously we communicated, this webinar is being recorded and will be available across Sbey Research platforms to promote public access and awareness of this important topic. And before that, just a quick reminder of the guest. Please, if everyone's attended as a guest in this webinar, I just wanted to make sure to change your username to your real name if it's possible. And also keep your microphone off till we get to the question and answer sessions. With that, I turn the discussions over to Dr. Kawa. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Rosa, for the kind introduction. So I am not a doctor. It's an honor to give me that title, but I'm not. So, but thank you for your kind words. It's really an honor and a pleasure to today, to moderate this session, this webinar, and also from my end, a warm welcome to our participants and also our speakers. And it's really, it's unfortunate that Dr. Behrooz couldn't be with us. We hope all the best for his child. And with that, our other 2 speakers, Dr. Sait and Jeff, will have a bit more time to, present their talk later on. So this webinar is extremely timely, given the historic decision of Abdullah Öcalan to disband PKK, end armed struggle, and engage in peaceful political activities in Turkey. If the peace process between PKK and Turkey is successful, the implications could be transformative for Kurds, Turkey, but also maybe Middle East. Success is far from certain. Little is known about how the negotiations are evolving. All sides, including Dem Party, Turkish authorities, and PKK, are tight-lipped about the progress so far. This is understandable given the sensitivity of the negotiations, but also given the history of previous negotiations. But still, it's really, for people like us, analysts, experts, journalists, it's frustrating not to know where does the process stand right now. So little is known about the actual progress. But looking at it from what we read in the media, looks like things are moving. The Turkish parliament has set up a commission to look into the issue of, how to deal with the issue of, the disbandment of PKK, about the Kurdish rights in Turkey and all these issues, the amnesty for PKK leaders and cadres. So it looks like things are moving. So today we take a deep dive into the evolution of Öcalan's ideological journey. And we are fortunate, as I said, to have two distinguished speakers who will shed two different lights and provide different perspectives on Öcalan's political transformation. So each speaker will have max 15 minutes to briefly deliver their talk. Then after that, I'll ask each of them one or two questions. We get their answers, and then we open the floor for questions and comments. So needless to say, given the time constraint, we only have 90 minutes and already 12 minutes have passed. We ask you all to be very concise and brief when you ask the question. And so this is just a housekeeping note. So without further ado, dear Jeff, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great honor to be able to participate in this event. I feel a little bit under meriting being on such a panel. I work with people who are tied up to the Kurdish movement. I've been working on the Kurdish question for about a decade now, and I'm quite a fan of Abdullah Öcalan's. I think what Öcalan has achieved is world historic with respect to the work, the theoretical foundations that he's laid for a new understanding of self-determination, an understanding of self-determination for the 21st century, which is understood as democratic confederalism, a maximalist program. He has also a more minimalist program, which I think when we talk about and we get down to the politics of the peace process and what that looks like, I think we have to be thinking about he's also very pragmatic, and he's got a minimalist program as well. But the maximalist program I want to spend some time talking about, because I think it's something that is world historic re-articulation of what self-determination can and must mean in the 21st century. It's an understanding of self-determination that is radical, that is articulated as radical democracy. Some people talk about it as being radical democracy against the state. I think it's in antagonism with the state. We can say radically democratizing the state. This is the impulse in it, and direct democratic. And when we think about the polycrisis that is this maximalist agenda, is something which is actually could become realistic in surprisingly short period of time. Anyhow, so the first pillar of this democratic confederal re-articulation of self-determination is radical democracy. Then another pillar is gender emancipation, and I think Öcalan's really re-articulating what gender emancipation has to do with the broader prospects of human emancipation and the key role of patriarchy and the unfolding of hierarchies in history, I think is a real achievement intellectually, and also programmatically. It's put into practice in the movement. We see it very prominently in Syria, in the northeast of Syria. So the second pillar is this pillar of gender emancipation. Third pillar, I think, is multicultural accommodation. I think this is a really crucial understanding of what self-determination must. It's a way of overcoming the negative dialectic of the tyranny of the majority over minority. The national liberation movements have had difficulties overcoming themselves, and so I think this multicultural accommodation is in some respects reminiscent of the Austro-Marxist understanding of how to deal with the national question, we could say. But by all means, it's a very relevant way of dealing with ethnic diversity and conflict conflict, and we see its results in Syria. The success, not without difficulties, but the relative success in the northeast of Syria of this model of multicultural accommodation. And finally, crucially, in the 21st century, self-determination is linked up to ecological sustainability. And now this remains the most programmatic and least concretized pillar of the project. But it nevertheless, when we talk about the problems facing humanity, and then crucially the problem of climate catastrophe, this ecological plank to the maximalist platform, I think, is really crucial. And it's so I think that there's a revolutionary Öcalan in his transformation. His transformation isn't a transformation towards reformism, but it's a re-understanding what revolution must mean in the 21st century, a democratic revolutionary space that he's trying to open up. And I think that this model of democratic confederalism is something that can overcome the divide and conquer in places like Turkey and Syria. And it's something that I'm witnessing it here in Kenya. I come to Kenya and people are asking me, what is Öcalan? What's going on with Öcalan? What about his ideas? His ideas, democratic confederalism. We need some democratic confederalism here. So this in the informal settlements in Kenya. So I think that as I say, what Öcalan has achieved is something that is world historic in articulation of what self-determination can and must mean in the 21st century. Now, to bring it down a little bit to the question of the feasibility of the project, I think the project is utopian in the good sense. It gives us orientation of what we should be struggling for, but it is not unpragmatic. And here's where we see his ability to compromise. Yes, compromise on even things like cultural autonomy in his articulation of democratic society. But I think he's gambling that we open up the political space for rule of law and democracy, and our project of democratic confederalism can be one that unites the Turkish and Kurdish left, and so it could really also move beyond left and right in some ways, and get people who are interested in the tyranny of the state and trying to radically democratize the state, and also people interested in gender emancipation, and also people interested in ecological sustainability. So I think that the democratic confederal rearticulation, this utopian vision, is something that creates potential for cohesion of alternative publics in Turkey, in the broader Middle East and beyond. So for those reasons, I think the democratic confederalist rearticulation of self-determination is, as I say, world historic, and Öcalan is in this interesting position where, as a leader with a certain kind of charismatic, prophetic appeal to millions of people, he has a message which says, take democracy and into your own hands, and let's have self-determination 21st century style. So anyhow, I think that's enough for laying out the case, and maybe we'll open up, have more space for dialogue. So yeah, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for these excellent brief remarks, to the point, and outlining from your perspective the transition of ideological transformation of Öcalan, and what does that mean for Turkey in Syria, but also interesting to hear that there is interest in his ideas in Kenya. I didn't know about that, so that's that's interesting, and focusing on 4 key distinctive issues: radical democracy, gender emancipation, multicultural accommodation, and ecological sustainability. So what I found interesting, when you said, is that it's utopian in the good sense, but also pragmatic. So that's very interesting. Thank you. Dr. Sait, sorry, yeah? No, okay, right. So Dr. Sait, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, can you see the slides? Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for Sbey Research Center in the center of the Middle East and in the Kurdistan region and in the heart of Sulaimani, inviting us to participate to this webinar. You're very welcome, and let me to begin with a concise explanation of ideological evolution of Mr. Abdullah Öcalan's paradigm from 1969 to 2025. What I mean that one, and transformation from an independent and united and democratic Kurdistan, the PKK, and to Kurdistan Communities Union, the KCK, or the Kurdistan Communities Confederations. I will start my talk with the journey of Abdullah Öcalan's socialization. Abdullah Öcalan's political socialization started in his village, and then socialization, political participation, political action, and political mobilization. So I'll put in this form and formation, reformation, transformation, and retransformation. Today we exist, and then I concluded. Abdullah Öcalan's socialization starts from when his upbringing in the Amara village, when he goes to Jibin primary school, and then would have a conflict with his family, and then moves to Nizip middle school and lives with his sister. And his socialization from village life to complex town life start from 1955, not 56, to these dates. Öcalan, as a talented and energetic young boy from the lowest, the poorest stratum of Kurdish society. From Nizip, from Nizip to Ankara, more complex metropolitan city life. At the beginning, he thinks to go to military academy, but unfortunately, because of his age, he couldn't go. He couldn't participate to exam. Then he participated to another exam, and then he passes the exam, and then he won a place from land registry and cadastral boarding school. His first political socialization starts whether to choose left or right. That is a first step of his political socialization. So he's coming from the poorest stratum of Kurdish society, the poorest village of Kurdish society, not from a clan, not from a tribe, not from a sheikh, not from a sayyid, not from a agha. So the poorest stratum of Kurdish society in the banks of Euphrates. His political readings starts and then attending to spectrum of different ideas, left and right. And then suddenly he got a book called The Alphabet of Socialism. And then when he reads at the end, because he was a pious person, he was having 5 times a day praying and fasting and attending to mosque and then attending to leftist and rightist seminars. But when he reads The Alphabet of Socialism, in his writings, he says that I thought that Muhammad lost, Marx won. He chooses, so first he was trying to choose a left or right. Then he chooses leftist socialist ideology. As a civil, he finishes boarding school and then he applies for a job to Ahmed, the unofficial city of Kurdistan, to Diyarbakir. He applies for a job at land registry and cadastral department. Then after a week, he gets a news that he was accepted as an employee, as a technician, as a land surveyor. So I am talking about this in order to give a good picture of Abdullah Öcalan's socialization and his ideological evolution. It might take a little bit more, but please let me know to explain this. It could be very useful for the researchers in Bashuri Kurdistan and also to all the audience. As a critical place in Kurdistan, Ahmed at that time is the center of discourses, daily debates relating to Kurdish national liberation movement in Bashur, because 1961 to 1975 there was in Bashur, and then older people in Ahmed, they are behind the scene and then talking about these discussions. Abdullah Öcalan's political socializations, the last step, that the third step of political socializations, and taking Kurdish nation and Kurdistan issue at the heart of his political agenda. That is, it happens in Ahmed, in Diyarbakir. When we see that Abdullah Öcalan as a civil servant and doing land registry and as a technician, and then he was not happy with the political, social, and economic situation in Ahmed. He sees, he observes as a field work, and then he thinks that it is not enough, it's not a good job, and then he tries to go to attend to university exams and to study law. Then because he finished boarding school of land registry, because there is not enough subjects, then he wants to match the subject in order to attend to exam, and then he registers at the Diyarbakir Ziya Gökalp Secondary School, and then matches the subjects, and then attends to the university and got a place at the law faculty in Istanbul. He had experience of Ankara, capital, metropolitan. He had experience of Nizip, small town. He had experience of very poor village life in his village, and then he got a metropolitan Kurdish city, and then all listening about the issues of Kurds, Kurdistan, and he's observing the reality of the scene, and then he moved to Istanbul as a law faculty student. He involves into politics, political life, and then at that time in 1970s, and DEDECO, the Doğu Demokratik Kültür Ocakları, so the East Revolutionary Cultural Organizations, was Kurdish students left Turkish left. They left Turkish left organizations and then set up independent associations. And then one of the branch of that association was in Istanbul. Abdullah Öcalan straight away moved there and then become a member of DEDECO. But at the same time, because of his choosing leftist ideology and then seeing Kurdistan in Diyarbakir and then Kurdish issue and then the case of Kurdistan, and then he buys the Right of Self-Determination book from Lenin, and he reads that book. And then he reads that book and he attends to the DEDECO's one of the seminar. He wants to asks the authority of the DEDECO to make a seminar. At the seminar, he says that Kurdistan has been divided. Kurds are a nation, and Kurdistan is a colony. When he says this, everybody's surprised and everybody's scared, and then he is doing a provocation, and then the state will come, the police will come, and the intelligence service will come, and then they will close down the association. Then there are Serhat Bucak, who is at the moment very old in Brussels, and he was present at that seminar, and then also Sharafatin Kaya, one of the very well-known lawyers of Northern Kurdistan, was there as well. So Abdullah Öcalan lives, and then he attends to the university, and he is not happy there as well. He says that I wasn't convinced that I become a lawyer. I really interested in political science. And then he participates to the examinations of the university, and then he passes the best, he gets the best result among 20 best students, and then he got scholarship from the education department, and then he registered at the University of Ankara doing political science. When he was doing political science at that time, in 1971, coup already, a military coup happened, and then so many students were fighting with the state, and then a small guerrilla group fought with the state, and then all of them, 11 of them were killed by the state, and then Abdullah Öcalan and with active students, in order to distribute the leaflets, and then he was arrested, and then he stays 7 months in prison. So when he's in prison, he thinks in 7 months, he thinks that what he's seen in Kurdistan, what he's seen in Istanbul and Ankara, he brings experience. He come to that conclusion. An organization is needed for Kurdish people to be separate from Turkish left and from Kurdish traditional national organizations too. So that is the manifesto. The first, first political participation of Abdullah Öcalan happens in Ankara University in 1973. He brings a group of 8-9 students, and all from Kurdish background, most of them from very wealthy families. And then in Behrooz, 1973, he goes to Çubukdam in Ankara. He explains to them that Kurdistan is Kurds are a nation, Kurdistan is a country, has been divided, colonized. We need to fight for this. Are you ready? Would you come to this organization to join us? All of them except then Ali Haydar Kaytan, who was assassinated by a drone in Bashuri, Kurdistan in 2019. Except then Ali Haydar Kaytan, all the others left the group. But Abdullah Öcalan doesn't give up, and then he continues his struggle, and then he brings some other very active, energetic students, and among them, 4 of them Turkish students, and they agree with Öcalan that Kurdistan is a nation, Kurdistan has been colonized, and then in order to get out of this conundrum, a political party need to establish, a guerrilla army need to be set up, a popular front needs to be established according to prolonged popular war, like defense, balance and offense strategy, to fight for liberation of Kurdistan in order to make independent, united and democratic Kurdistan. So his manifestation is on these principles, and then getting some experiences and knowledge from Vietnam Liberation, National Liberation Movement, and also Chinese Liberation Movement. So he combines with the Marxist-Leninist ideology, and then defending that a proletariat revolution needs to proletariat class, working class need to lead the Kurdistan National Liberation Movement. And then he considers his ideology and his party as a part of socialist system at that time. Then it's the formation of the PKK. So his Abdullah Öcalan's political paradigms formation come to a political students union in Ankara, and then among higher education students, and he organizes ADYÖD, Ankara Demokratik Yüksek Öğrenim Derneği. So Ankara Higher Education Revolutionary Students Union, and then he became the leader of that organization, and then he chooses his future leaders of Kurdistan national liberation movements, elite from there, and then they starting as a reading group every day, participating to the seminars, to the readings, and debates, and conversations. Then he set up his group in 1975. At the beginning, like at the first New Year. And the 1st of January, New Year, they make their first group meeting. And the group meeting, then Abdullah Öcalan in 1997, and that distributed all his members to northern Kurdistan. And then he tries to move to northern Kurdistan to see the field and see the provinces, and then look at the social, cultural, and political situation of northern Kurdistan cities, and then how they will be able to set up this organization in order to start guerrilla war according to prolonged popular wars strategy. Then I have to move a little bit, and in 1978, set us a political party with 23 participants in the heart of Ahmed in Libya and in a village called Fis. And then the first Congress of the PKK take place, and then he set up a political party. And then 1979, and then martial law took place in 1978. At the end of 1978, but Marash genocide, and Turkish state declared martial law. And then in 1979, in July, Abdullah Öcalan left Bakuri, Kurdistan to Kobani, and then left to Damascus and then Beirut. And then he met late Kurdistan leader Mam Jalal, and then Mam Jalal helped Abdullah Öcalan quite considerably well, and then Abdullah Öcalan brought his group of guerrillas and trained, and the 1980 coup took place. Anyway, knowing I'm not going to make it longer because not wasting time. Abdullah, so this is formation. This is formation of the PKK. And then we come to the reformation. The reformation, PKK set up a group of a political party. The political party set up a guerrilla army. Guerrilla army in 1984 started guerrilla war against Turkish state. And then in 1985, the Popular Front was declared. And then they have established so many community centers in all European countries. And they were getting a massive support from Kurdish population in diaspora. And then the PKK, at the time of the coming to the balance, guerrilla war happened in the all provinces of Bakuri Kurdistan, and then an earthquake in political and geostrategic happened, which was the end of Cold War. When Soviet Union collapsed, socialist system, Warsaw.
Dr. Sait, you only like in 5 minutes.
Okay, then I'm coming to the end. Then a reformation. At the reformation, PKK tried to change its strategy, and then change its way of doing struggle. And then a Turkish president at that time, 1993, offered to come to a conclusion. And then in the world area, African National Congress (ANC) had a discussion with the peace process with the Klerk in South Africa, and then we see that Israel and PLO had negotiation for peace, and then European community promoted to European Union, and the borders, they took the borders and passport controls, and then after that, Kurdistan parliament came to existence after United Nations Security Council 688 resolution. A new birth of Kurdistan came to existence. So Abdullah Öcalan did change some changes in its strategy. Then we see, unfortunately, that Abdullah Öcalan was arrested. Abdullah Öcalan wanted to have a political solution for Kurdish question. That's why he moved to Europe. Unfortunately, the European countries and they didn't, European Union, they didn't give him a refuge. Then he was handed over to Turkish authorities in Kenya. Then we see the PKK changed its transformation. So change its strategy from reformation to transformation. So Abdullah Öcalan offered Turkish state to have a similar political system to United Kingdom or Switzerland in the Declaration of Democratic Solution book, and then they set up Kurdistan Communities Union, and then in 1999 to 2024, transformation continued in two serious peace process in 25 to 29, and then 2013 to 2015. So if you come to conclusion, Dr. Kawa, it led me to conclude it. So evolution of the Abdullah Öcalan's ideological change, paradigm change, we see that the evolution from the PKK to the KJK. So from the United Democratic Kurdistan to a confederation of Kurdistan, and then also from nation building to society building. But the PKK with this struggle has created a nationhood and a sense of nationality, a nation among the Kurds worldwide. We see the Kurds from Lorestan, from Khanaqin, from Dersim, from Afrin, from everywhere, that they have been joined to the PKK. That is a first, and then internationalization of Kurdish question. Second point, from a party movement to a wide range of civil society, liberated women leading social movement from Kurdistan to a wider Middle Eastern regions, multi-ethnic and multi-religious societies. Implementation of this idea is in Rojava, Kurdistan now. Although it hasn't been recognized as a de jure, but as a de facto system that's 14 years, it's been continued. New approach democratic modernity in combination with the capitalist modernity, coexistence of ethnicities, ideas, and beliefs. Evolution from confederation of communities of Kurdistan to confederation of Middle Eastern communities. And the last point, the status quo and the system of the United Nations state system is a huge impasse against this understanding. Time, space, change, and continuity. So the PKK's and Abdullah Öcalan's, the basic idea. So, and this going with the time and then taking the space, on that space, on that geography, and then changing. But the change and transformation and evolution is not living everything, but continuity, to have the continuity of the struggle. And then finally, Öcalan stated that believing in the power of politics will change everything they are aiming to. I'm sorry for that, taking too long, and thank you very much for giving me enough time to complete it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaka Sait, for this very interesting and passionate presentation. Thank you. So, as I told you, I would like to, pose a few questions to you, and then, we'll open the floor for the audience to ask their questions, to, give us their comments. So, my first question to both of you is, and I will ask a few questions to both of you. The first question, how do you assess the prospect of the current negotiation between PKK and Turkish state in Turkey to lead to a, resolution of the Kurdish issue, whatever you want to, no matter how you want to conceptualize it, to a resolution of Kurdish issue in Turkey? And related to that, what does that mean for the whole ideological transformation of Öcalan, from PKK to democratic confederalism? What are the prospects of this idea to be implemented in Turkey? If I may first start with you, Jeff. First, your take on the peace process itself. Second, how feasible is it that this idea could be implemented in a post-settlement resolution of Kurdish issue in Turkey? And then I'll get to you guys, Sait.
I think whenever Öcalan has a chance to speak, that opens up political space on the Kurdish question. And I think so far the relative opening up of channels to hear Öcalan say things and communicate with the Kurdish people, I think has been a good thing with respect to the prospects for the peace process going somewhere. I think it's hard, of course, to trust people like Erdogan and Bahçeli, and they have their own reasons why they're interested tactically, strategically in moving towards at least some sort of victory in the peace process. But I think that Öcalan's intuition with the Kurdish freedom movement is that the Kurdish question is really the key question to democracy in Turkey. Democracy and the rule of law in Turkey pass through the Kurdish question. So when the Kurdish question comes up on the agenda, that creates all kinds of possibilities for different kinds of politics in Turkey and beyond. So yeah, and I do think it's also really important to see the extent to which Öcalan pragmatic in compromising with respect to even issues of cultural autonomy, territorial autonomy, and the like, and obviously crucially with respect to the question of disarming. And we'll see how much disarming moves beyond the ceremonial. But it does seem that that Öcalan has a real trust that the peace process, once it gets going, will be unstoppable. Let's hope that Öcalan's gamble is correct.
I liked your last point. Let's hope that his gamble will be correct, because history will judge. And I think it's an enormous step for PKK and for Kurds and for Öcalan to take this big leap forward, if you like. It's a huge step. As I said in my introductory remarks, success is far from certain. There are spoilers, probably on both sides, but also regionally. And assuming that the process is successful,
yeah,
how much of his ideal, based on the 4 pillars you mentioned, going back to the 4 pillars, if you like,
yeah,
how much of those 4 pillars you see realistically being implemented in Turkey in the coming years and decades? I know it's a difficult question. We don't have a crystal ball, but how much of it?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say because there's so much turbulence around the world. I think in a turbulent situation, things could happen really quickly. But I think that Öcalan's gamble is that this is it's a generational project, generation-long project, and that what the people need to be doing is mobilizing at the local level to build the local autonomy from the ground up in a peaceful and democratic way. And hopefully with some rule of law and democracy across Turkey and the Middle East, this could be a very popular project.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Sait, same question to you.
Yeah. When Abdullah Öcalan analyzing the events in the Middle East, Turkey, and the whole Europe, he says, he names Versailles peace end of the peace. The peace ended the peace. The peace happened and created another fight. The Second World War happened. Didn't bring peace, but ended the peace. And then also Öcalan says Sykes-Picot has created, and then afterward, and the conflict in the Middle East would never end. For example, Syria was ruled by Alawists on the majorities. In Iraq, Sunnis, Arabs, were minority, ruling all majority, the other Kurds and Shias. So leave this one behind. Now, how we assess this process? I believe, and then I think most of the, although we criticize some points, but most of the Kurdistan freedom movement, they believe in that Öcalan doing moral politics, doing politics morally, not pragmatically. So basing on the reality, he is an idealist. He is a realist, not idealist. He is looking at the reality and then making the strategy on the base of reality. So if we look at it, how visible a peace, Öcalan says that I believe in the power of politics. When he started his, as a group of 3 people in Ankara, he was visiting a Kurdish organization in Ankara. It was DDKD, it was KDP, it was PSK, Partiya Sosyalist Kurdistan Kemal Burkay. He was visiting Kurdistan Democrat Party Siraj Bilgin. He was visiting DDK, the remnants of DDKOS became DDKD. In Ankara, he was saying then, let's work in a united front, but they didn't. But Öcalan believed in what he was doing, and then they set up that group of Kurdistan revolutionaries and started and then made PKK, and then nobody was trusting that it will happen. Although NATO, with all the support politically, culturally, propaganda, in all senses, logistically, helped Turkey, but Turkey couldn't overcome, couldn't demolish, couldn't destroy the PKK. But the PKK, with its strategic thinking, taking time, space, change, and continuity, came to that. Once Turkish state removed the red light or green light in the traffic lights, I remember in 1993, 92, and they removed it because they said that it is a signing of the Kurdistan flag. And then from Kurt Mountain Turks, now they accept, they said, oh, we are making brotherhood of Kurds, Turks, and Arabs. Although nobody believes that, Kurdish people don't believe that they will make peace. But they have made the discourse of the time. Now, after 10 years, PKK is fighting since 24th July 2015 to now, and then in 10 years, PKK fought, although they lost so many, paid a huge price, but at least, if we refer to Henry Kissinger, he says that a failure for a state, for a state, when they cannot destroy a political guerrilla movement. The success of guerrilla movement is when the state cannot destroy them and they resist and they keep their continuity. So when we compare the PKK and Turkish government, although the PKK dissolved itself and then ended armed struggle, and now they're trying to set up the political struggle as their main strategy to participate in democratic politics and legal politics. But again, there is nobody believes that the Turkish state and an Erdogan government will make peace. Nobody believes that. But the geostrategic and geopolitical situation of the Middle East may cause, and then also the political power game in the world may have an impact on Turkish state to do some do some agreements.
Okay.
Can I say something just on that
Yes,
point
please.
about,
Yes,
about
go
the
ahead, Jeff.
geopolitics?
Yeah.
I think the question of Israel and the tension between Israel and Turkey has a lot to do with fears in Turkey about needing to not make sure they're not divided and conquered over the Kurdish question. That the Israelis not play around with a divide and conquer strategy using the Kurds. And Öcalan himself is no friend of Israel. And so I think that's a point of genuine agreement between the Turkish state apparatus, who he's in contact with and dialogue with for 25 years, and Öcalan himself is this issue. And so I think that's something that sheds light on the peace process in a broader Middle Eastern perspective that people don't talk about enough, I don't think.
Just one point to add,
Yes.
Dr. Jeffrey
Yes.
and Dr. Kawa.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think all these rumors in the media of Turkey about Öcalan that is talking about Israel. Öcalan is friend of Israeli people. Öcalan is not. It's not some a kind of taking revenge or something. No, Öcalan even at the beginning, and then was saying the right of existence and self-determination of Jewish people have their own state and to be safeguarded. And then also I had a conference with Dr. Michael Günther, Professor Michael Günther from Tennessee University, and then he was with Öcalan 3 days in Damascus before Öcalan left Damascus. And then he knows, and then he discussed with Öcalan. But Öcalan is a friend of Jewish people, friend of the state of Israel, and Öcalan know better than everyone how political games and calculations happening in the center of the Middle East. And today we see that, like 1 month ago, Tom Barak was saying that. You should obey everything from Ahmad al-Shara. Now, yesterday he declared that in Syria and something less than federation would be acceptable. And then Öcalan sent a message by his brother: never ever Syrian democratic forces should disarm. Never. If they disarm, it looks like they are lying their throat to the sword of ISIS. So he sent this message. His brother 3 times declared this on media. It means that his calculation is something different. As a political journalist in Istanbul says, that an American journalist says, the PKK, like a mother sacrificing itself for its baby. So the PKK is sacrificing itself for the Rojava. And so, yeah, thank you.
Yes, Jeff.
I mean, just on the question of Israel, Öcalan has written that he sees the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict being democratic confederalism. And he may be a friend of the Israeli people, but he's also a friend of the Palestinians. I mean, if we recall, it was in the Bekaa Valley that the PKK was training. So there's deep historical connections as well. And I think that actually Öcalan's democratic confederal perspective is a perspective that if the Palestinian movement and the Israeli opposition could come to some sort of agreement on, it would be a game changer. It would be a game changer. It would be, in a way, you could call it a no-state solution. But anyhow, yeah. I do think that I think that it behooves us to talk about the situation in the broader so-called Middle East if we're going to understand what are the prospects for the peace process inside of Turkey.
Sure, thank you. Well, I think this is obviously and I will open the floor for the audience. But what I find fascinating, the discussion about the future of the idea of democratic confederalism in a post-October 7 geopolitics. What does it mean? what is the prospect of that in Turkey itself? Now, when it comes to the Palestinian issue, the no-state solution, and I'm not that sure, that democratic and federalism could be a solution for that conflict, given it's very, it's the way October 7 has completely transformed the dynamics in the region, and Israel, is now, the way the war is, but that's a different question, I mean, that's very interesting, but it's different. But without monopolizing, the discussion.
Kawa, can just make
Yes,
a point?
yes, please. Yeah.
Look, insisting on nation-state solution, it will have the results of Gaza. You see, and then how long ago they started two-state solution, and it will never happen because Israeli people's fear is not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. Look at 7th October, how easily happened. And then that like genocide, and then 1,200 people in a minute, they were just killed, and then who were supporting them, but insisting on now what's going to happen East Bank. Look, and then Kurdistan, Öcalan is saying, if we insist, then we will have the same. Öcalan, in his book on, look, and says on, it was, yeah, I find it, and 24th of June 2013, he declares to the mission was meeting him, and there was a Salahuddin Demirtas as well, saying that so many people are saying that Abdullah Öcalan has left the idea of independence, federation, and autonomy. He said, I haven't. I just left for the time being. Just for the time being. But look, he says, I am trying to democratize the public opinion of the residents of Turkey. It's in this book, in the page 56.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sait. So yes, let's open the floor for for the audience to to ask their questions, to share with us their comments. I see Ahang as the first one who raised her online virtual arm. Yes, yes, Ahang.
Thank you, Kawa. Thank you, everyone, for such an insightful discussion. I really enjoyed listening to you, and it was very interesting. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ahang Habib Havrani. I'm a journalist and researcher. I got two questions. My first question is for both speakers, any of them can answer it. And my second question is for the three of you, including you, Kawa. You can also answer my question. My first question is, much of this webinar focuses on the concept of democratic society by Öcalan, but where do the PKK guerrillas fit within this vision? We know that the ideology of PKK guerrillas comes from the ideology of Abdullah Öcalan. So where is the place of the PKK guerrillas in this vision? This is my first question. The second question is on the PKK guerrillas. Considering the ideology of PKK guerrillas, which I already said, it's rooted in the ideology of Abdullah Öcalan. In your opinion, what a successful disarmament, demobilization and reintegration of PKK guerrillas would look like?
I have an answer to both of the questions, which is the same answer.
Yes,
which
please.
is that I think that the vision of the guerrilla is for the guerrilla to disband and reorganize as cadres in civil society for the political movement, building in particular the communes, building the institutions of popular people power from below. So the cadres who are dedicated to living in accordance with the highest ideals of the movement, they should be involved in the construction of the maximalist agenda, so to speak, of democratic confederalism from below. And that's what I think the disarmament should look like: redeployment and also be thinking about ways in which they can remain autonomous and live collectively, which is ways in which the guerrilla has managed to sort of prefigure a different kind of social order. So anyhow, that's my answer.
Thank you. Dr. Sait?
Yeah, the place of the guerrillas is at the heart of the process. So the PKK guerrillas will lie down their arms on the condition of doing legal politics and have constitutional guarantees. When they have constitutional guarantees, they will, as Dr. Jeffrey said, in order to organize the society from bottom up, that radical democracy, they are going to be the main implementers of the democratic society's organization, to building a society, to widespreading the knowledge of the social coexistence and social life. That is, their place is at the heart. And then without constitutional guarantees and doing legal politics with low guarantees, and there wouldn't be any disarming or disarmament or demolition, demobilization. It wouldn't happen. The guerrillas, demobilization and reintegration to Kurdish society will happen on that base. So that is why the Great National Assembly has set up that commission. Öcalan was insisting on the establishment of that commission in 2013, 2015. But Erdogan saw that when he is not going to win the elections, that's why he stopped in this process. But now they are saying that this process is started by state, not by the government, by the state. But everybody knows who is running the machinery of the state. Is the government, is the cabinet, is the AKP's cabinet, and everybody knows. But the reintegration, and demobilization will happen on condition of the social guarantees, constitutional guarantees. Then, unless than that, and the mobilization wouldn't happen at all.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No DDR without constitutional guarantees and legal guarantees that they should be able to conduct legal political activities. That's clear. Right. Okay. Thank you. And you said that Öcalan insisted on this back in 2013, but then at the time it was refused by government. But things probably, this is a difference between the current process and previous process, that we have now a parliamentary committee which is composed of the majority of the parties in the parliament, which is probably a qualitative change, difference in the political scene. But we'll get back to that. We'll get back to it. Thank you. Kakardo, Farbu, it's floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone. And I have two questions. First to Kak Sait. Okay, Kak Sait, we know Öcalan, he wants to have, or he calls to democratic society. So what is about the other side? What is from the Turkish society? Do you think, or you as an observer, you as expert in the Kurdish society, in the Kurdish issue in Turkey, how do you see the Turkish elites' interpretation or understanding of Öcalan's calling for democratic society? Do you have any kind of understanding, or do you see any change from the Turkish elite? I mean, even from the academicians, that they will accept that democratic society? That's my first question. The second question to Thomas. Thomas, do you think the prison has impacted the Öcalan's ideology from Marxism to call for democratic society? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kado. And you asked one of my questions. You stole it, and that was I kept it for the for the next round. And that was my question was exactly what you said, Kado.
Okay.
Had Öcalan not been imprisoned, could we have seen the same transformation? Of course, it's difficult to go into his, to go into his brain, but I think this is a crucial question to ask and a critical question, right? So let's go first to Jeff, and then we come to you, Dr. Sait. Yes.
Yeah, I think somewhere Öcalan writes that from prison, he writes, "Before I was a seeker of power, only since I've been in prison have I become a seeker of truth." And I think there's a long history of people who in prison, Malcolm X is a great hero of mine, who in prison developed a whole worldview, a very powerful worldview, which there's something about the existential space that he's in that allows for radically rethinking things, radically rethinking the foundations of his political program, etc. And I think those prison conditions were very important. I also think it is also the case that he has been in dialogue with the Turkish state now for 26 years. And he's a guy who believes in political dialogue, and so I do think that there's always two publics for what Öcalan is writing. One is he's writing for the Turkish state, and the other he's writing for the Kurdish people. And that's some of the ways in which some of the very same language could be interpreted in very different ways. But I think Öcalan has become increasingly savvy at understanding how to speak to the Turkish state from prison.
Okay, and to answer your question first,
yes.
And then Öcalan, when he left on 9th of October 1998, when he left Damascus, on the plane, he was having an interview with Media TV, and he said, when we left Ankara to Ahmed, we became a political party. When we left Ahmed to the center of Middle East, we became an army. And when we are living Middle East to Europe, we will definitely become a state. This was, but the state, so another part, when in 1988, in July, when he met the famous half Kurdish, half Turkish, famous journalist of Turkey, Mehmet Ali Birant, in Bar Ilyas, in Lebanon, he said, I want to do politics in Turkish parliament. I believe in that. In 1988, I have the video of that, and I have the book of that. I have the book of that, that's the book of Mehmet Ali Birant. And in that book, he says that I want to do politics in Turkey, in parliament, Turkish parliament. And we don't want an immediate separation from Turkey. We can't discuss. So this is another. So it couldn't happen, it could happen. Yeah. So like two sides of one coin. And to answer your question, Keke Cardo, with this declaration of 27th of February, Öcalan has given a very warm welcome to Turkish society, not Turkish elites. Turkish elites now divided into two. One is against, one wants. One of the elites, they want peace with Kurdish question. The other elite, who were converts of Macedons, Serbians, Albanians, Caucasians, Georgians, Kurds, converts who become Turks, they are not in favor of this process. But according to the public opinions from Turkish society, 65% are in favor of this process. Peace to happen. Among Kurdish society, 91% now, according to Rawest surveying and public surveyors in Ahmet, Rahar Ruhavioğlu is the chair of that center. Now almost 91% public opinion in 27th of provinces of Bakuri Kurdistan, they are in favor of that. But among Turkish left, there is again two sides. One Turkish left is Kemalist left. They don't agree with this process, and because they are very, very deeply related national Turkish chauvinists. But on the other hand, the Dem Party is a coalition. But of course it's 90% of the Kurdish supported, but there are Turkish leftist organizations and parties as well, and they support this process as well. So if we come to that conclusion, yes, it is Öcalan's declaration has made a very positive effect and impacts on Turkish society yes.
Okay, so Dr. Sait, just to make sure that I got the figures right. So according one poll, you said 65% of Turkish society supports the peace process.
Yes.
And 91% of the Kurdish society supports the peace process. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Is that near accurate? And it is called Rawest public
polling. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
polling, yes.
And you said the Turkish elite is divided because the question of Kakad was very important. Divided. Yeah. So those who are in favor of the process, you said those who have, let's say, Kurdish roots, Albanian, Caucasian, whatever, they do support, right?
No, they don't support.
They don't support.
They don't support. They don't support.
And why? Because that's interesting. Because
they will lose the rent they get from these fightings. They are bureaucrats. They are they are elites. They are in very high paid jobs.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, spas.
Politicians, academics, journalists, and so many of them.
Right. Okay. Good. And next question or comments. Who would like to ask a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
If no one's going to ask a question,
yes.
What is the possible impact of the peace process going forward on the future of Erdogan?
Shall I answer? Yeah.
Yes.
So Erdogan, at the moment, he is in the middle. He is showing as if he supports peace process. As if. But in fact, Erdogan hasn't made a decision whether supported or not, because he got a terrible experience of 2013 and 15 peace process. On 4th of July, 4th of April 2015, he wanted to end the process of 2013 and 15 process. Why? Because he tried by Yalcin Erdogan, the deputy prime minister of the time, which was Ahmed Davutoğlu. He tried to end the process because he knew that, according to the opinion polls, the HDP was winning 13%.
Yeah.
When the HDP winning 13%, Erdogan was losing. His party was losing. Then it happens. At that time, Kemalists supported the HDP to participate to elections as a party, not independent participants of the elections. Because as you know, the previous ones, the BDP participated to the elections as an independent. But that time, the HDP participated as a party, and won 80 MPs, but one of them was distributed by the AKP and the HDP. At that night, HDP sent Celal Doğan, the MP from Gaziantep, to negotiate with Erdogan to have a coalition. The Deniz Baykal, the leader of the previous leader of CHP, and Bahçeli, because they related to the deep state and they didn't let the coalition to happen. And then Erdogan lost. Erdogan is scared now whether to have an early election, because he will change the constitution or have a decision of early election. In order to have early election, he must have 360 votes from parliament. But without DEM party, he cannot get 360 MPs. In order to have a constitutional change, he needs to have 400 MPs signatures. He cannot get that one, and then Erdogan is in a very, very unstable situation at the moment. Today is 56th anniversary of Malazgirt, when the Seljuk Empire came and had fight with the Byzantium, and then when the way of Anatolia opened by the Turks. Today was celebration. Erdogan participated to that election on his own without Bahçeli. Every year he was attending with Bahçeli, but today he's saying this process will go on and nobody has the power to prevent it. Today, it happened today. But when we see the future of Erdogan is blooming, he scares a lot that he will be hanged like Adnan Menderes. Because at the moment, as you know, that all these Kemalists and the others, and then that's why he is always detaining the CHP's councillors, and then you see, and then his future is very, very gloomy at the moment. But and also his foreign secretary too, Hakan Fidan, and although he is threatening Rojava, but according to poll, their situation is no good.
Okay, so just a question on that. Let's imagine that at some point there will be a new government led by opposition in Turkey. Okay, do you think CHP and others they will pursue peace process with PKK if we have a new government.
So there is again, among them, there is again two different vision. One vision, overwhelming majority, they are within peace process. They want. But a very critical Kemalist nationalists, again converts in the CHP, they are is brutally against this process. So this initiative, Öcalan, has created a wide spectrum in Turkish and Kurdish society, especially in Turkish society, to think and then to clash and to have a challenge about it. That is a very good window. That is very good opportunity.
Okay.
And the sense of nationhood and the sense of having a collective national identity by the Kurds, it's huge, like a renaissance. In Istanbul, more than 6 million Kurds. In Balıkesir, Bursa, more than 2 million. In Izmir, Aydın, more than 2 million. In Antalya, Mersin, again about 2 million. In Adana and Osmania, about 1 million. In Ankara and Central Anatolia, again about 1 million. So almost in all our families now moved from Agiri to Eskişehir. We have almost 1,000 families in Eskişehir.
Okay.
From my family, from all Keskins.
Okay, right. Thank you.
But they haven't forgotten their national identity. Although a similar case of Scots happened, but now revelation and reintegration to Kurdish society happening vice versa. They moved to Anatolia, now they're moving to Kurdistan, and they're owning their national identity, and they are proud of that, and they want collective right of Kurdish nation. That is very important with this process, this new revelation, and then the boiling. That's very important point.
Good. Thank you so much, Dr. Sait. We are almost at the end of our webinar. So I will hand back to Rosa to say some concluding remarks. And thank you so much. It's been very, very interesting, very insightful. You know, really, thank you for all your thoughts and insights, Rosa.
Thank you all for being a part of this truly insightful, thought-provoking conversations. Your engagements, the perspectives shared today made this webinar a meaningful exchange of ideas. We will be sharing the full recording along with the blog post summarizing key takeaways very soon. So keep an eye on your books. Once again, thank you for joining us. Wishing you all a peaceful evening and a good night from Iraq.